markets now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company, and we're seeing grains try to hold on to gains here as we roll through the mid-session. Over in the livestock futures, hogs back to the plus side, cattle seeing a little pressure. And the pop in the grains here today, Vince, how much of that is just some short covering and corrective buying after a down day yesterday?
I think a lot of it's there. I was probably a little more impressed with thinking that earlier in the day when beans were 16, 17 higher and wheat was higher. But again, after you get going, the thing is struggling, I think, just on the supply side versus demand, and weather is going to do damage to the corn and beans and where you're at. But all in all, I think after that last few days, you did have some technical selling, end of the month selling, I believe, an end of the marketing year selling, and now you're just trying to figure out, is there buying support under the market?
Right. And so, like you said, some short covering, some pretty good gains early. Holding on to those gains also is a factor of there's a few forecasts that have a little bit of rain there. And it seems like when those model runs come out, that's when we start to see this market set back just a little bit off the highs.
Yes, and again, I think you're getting to the point where rain's not going to make a lot of difference.
Right.
You know, an inch or two right now would be there, but if it's 5 or 6 days out, I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference.
We've also had export business on soybeans every day this week, over 41 million bushels on soybeans. And so, how much of that is really adding to any of the bullishness of the market in soybeans? Because even though we are seeing this, I think we're still behind in terms of our new crop sales, aren't we?
From what I looked at on a report this morning, I think beans were 5% below where we normally are, and corn's 24%. But yes, you have to be impressed with the beans, but is it making a lot of difference? I don't think so. From the standpoint, if we look at the last 3 days prior to today, we did nothing but go down, even though we had that news. But it's in the back of the minds, I think, of the trader. But psychology is just a little questionable, I think, in corn and wheat, and just keeping people a bit skeptical as we get into the bean market.
Yeah. What about corn there? Do you feel like you said we're at the point where rain is probably not going to help a lot. So what do you think's baked into this market in terms of yield right now?
I think you're in that 172 to 175. Where it comes in at, as we both know, time will tell us that one. I think the real key from what I'm trying to look at, just watch December. I think it closed below 71, 474. It could be quite bearish and could get a lot of selling going if we can continue to hold that. Maybe we can get some runs up to 510 to 520, but right now it appears there's lots of selling just under $5.
Right. And the funds obviously are short already, that market. How much shorter do they want to push this thing?
I think it's one of those stories of if they're making money, they get pretty bold and they don't care until they get punished or something tells them to change their mind. I don't think they're afraid to keep adding to those shorts.
Yeah. The other drag on the corn market has obviously been the wheat market. We made new contract lows yesterday, and I think both Chicago and Minneapolis wheat 21-month lows in Kansas City. So is that market getting close to a bottom? Because that would certainly help the cause out for not only wheat, but corn.
You got to think you are. Seasonally, a lot of times you will bottom that wheat market in August, and we're end of August when we put the low in. Yesterday in that KCD, when you had that 20+ cent rally midday, and then they backed off about halfway. I think as long as we hold the overnight lows, we may have a shot at something. I'm not sure it's going to run away, but could we have a shot at least going back to recent highs around 770? I think that's a good possibility. If you find some other reasons, when USDA comes out in their September report, they are supposed to give us some abandoned acres. Whether that's going to be get anybody excited by looking at world supplies, that's a good question.
Yeah, because Russia just keeps undercutting us in the market. So we have a demand problem there in wheat, don't we?
Yes, and yesterday I think there was some Twitter stories out of record crop in Romania and Bulgaria, and they're somewhere around 20% of that European market. And along with that story was they're priced cheaper than Russia is.
Yeah. What about this cattle market? We're down a bit here today. Are the funds going to continue to defend their position? They're long in this market. What are you watching here in terms of technically areas that we might need to violate where they might get out? We might see a bigger correction.
If you get into that December live cattle, I think it closes below 182 by very much probably is negative. Otherwise, 182 to 182.80 are probably areas where we should find fairly decent support. We've seen over the past couple of weeks where they continue to lighten up, but they're still healthy long as of last Friday's commitment to traders report at 90,000 contracts. They could go a ways yet. I think cash market's going to be the big dictator there, and we were going to be lower again this week. The way it looks, we are bringing that spread together between the north and the south significantly the last 3 weeks, and you probably do a bit more of that. But I think this north will always keep a little premium in here, at least for the next several months.
So seasonally, when do we normally put a bottom here or a low in that cash market? When do you see that turn taking place?
There are times, again, around 1st of September, South Dakota State Fair time, right where we're at right now, anywhere to mid-October. I would think somewhere in the next 2 or 3 weeks we could do that. I think we also need to watch that box beef market. That's been very good at holding that $300 level in the choice. As long as it can do that, I think that will be a bit more supportive to the cash market. And then let's not forget, demand is still going to be a key. We do have world exports from the U.S. down from where they were, as part of that price. It could be, but I think part of it is just a lack of cattle to export also with good domestic demand. But we have to see when that starts to change.
Yeah, that's a good point that you make. What about the hog market? We've been chopping around here in a pretty sideways fashion. Does that continue for a little bit longer, you think?
That would be my guess. Seasonally, you could take this thing all the way into early to mid-October before you bottom it. I think the trade, as you and I visited with earlier, watching that September pig report, trying to figure out with current slaughter rates about 2.7% above last year. The USDA's reports were looking for 0.3%. So is that additional slaughter? Is it gilts that aren't getting put back into the system because we're not making money? Is it because we're bringing pigs ahead because we think prices are going to drop, or is it just a mere figment that there are more hogs out there? I think it's probably a combination, but I think more so pulling ahead and really not replacing those sows that we've been killing at a record pace.
Yeah, well, with the discount in the back end of the board, you can see why some might think that we have to be bearish back there and might be marketing ahead. But, if you start taking upfront supplies off the market, eventually the back months have to come up here when the supply goes down, don't they?
They should, as long as demand stays there. And export demand has been good, and we start to see the pickup in that again the last few weeks. I think it was 36 or 37,000 the last couple of weeks, which is a nice number. And seasonally, we're at the point where that should pick up.
Absolutely. We had a really good export number yesterday. All right. Thanks for joining us, Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company, and that's Markets Now.